All right. So first of all, I'm having to sit down because I'm unable to stand up straight. So hopefully you'll be able to see everything here. This is just gonna. I don't have any milk or almond milk, so we're just gonna pretend here and hope that this is acceptable. Um, so normally we would have a CMT paddle. We have our four Dixie cups. I've also labeled them A, B, C, and D, so that when we're getting the sample, we'll know which quadrant we're getting the milk from. We also have our CMT reagent, which is already mixed up for us. And here's my udder. So first, I'm just going to just briefly show you how to get milk. We'll start at the top, and we're just squeezing down gently. Again, starting from the top and just working our way down the teat. One thing, I back up real quick. Prior to doing that, I should have cleaned all four the teats off with a paper towel, and we're going to do a couple squirts first before we collect our sample. We just want to make sure that we're using fresh milk for the test. We're going to get 3 to 5 streams from each quadrant. And again, these are all labeled. So 3 to 5 streams in each quadrant. And one thing I'm going to be looking at is to make sure that there's equal amounts of milk in each quadrant, each cup, or in each paddle, and there is. So we're going to pretend there is. Then I'm going to add equal amount of reagent to the sample into each paddle. And then we're going to mix the sample gently. So it's just kind of like in the video that they were showing the demonstration. It's just a gently swirling the samples together. And we want to make sure that we're reading at 10 seconds. So we've got our sample, I've swirled, I've mixed it together, 10 seconds, I'm doing my reading, and how we're determining or how we're reading the test results. So when I pour the sample, if there's no thickening, then that would be labeled as a negative. So again, I'm going to pour each quadrant out, and I'm going to note or score each one. So the first one, I poured it, and there was no thickening. So let's just assume all 4 quadrants, there was no thickening, and we would mark that as a negative. Slight thickening that disappears quickly, but remains liquid when poured, that would be labeled as a trace. If 1 to 2 quadrants equal a trace, that's acceptable. The cow's okay. If more than that, or all 4 quadrants are trace, then the cow is considered infected. So if there's noticeable thickening of the mixture, and it remains thick when I pour it, that's positive. That would be considered like a strong positive. And then interpreting the test results. So if visually, and again, this is our sample, we're going to go with this was a negative. Visually, it was negative. It poured. There was no thickening. That means that the somatic cell count is between 0 and 200,000. And the somatic cell count is just counting of white blood cells that are in the milk. And so that would be a healthy quarter. And again, all 4 quarters in this test were liquid, were poured, not thick, but there was no thickening. So all 4 quarters are healthy. If there's a trace visually, that means there's 200,000 to 1.2 million somatic cell counts. And that would be considered subclinical mastitis. If there were 2 or 3, visually there are 2 or 3, then that would be anything over 1.2 million. And that would be considered a serious mastitis infection. And so that will be the end of my test. and hopefully that will be acceptable. Thank you.